Hello class 8. Today let us begin our class with this chapter humidity and precipitation. So the first thing in this chapter that we have to know, that is what is humidity. So humidity is nothing but the presence of water vapor into the atmosphere or within the atmosphere, that is known as humidity. But one thing we have to know very clearly, that humidity largely depends upon the temperature of a place. Most likely, whenever temperature increases, humidity also increases, and with decrease in temperature, humidity also decreases. So it has a direct relationship with temperature. Now, there are two kinds of humidity. The first one that we can say is the absolute humidity, and the second one is the relative humidity. So absolute humidity is the actual amount of water vapor present in a given temperature at a given temperature in a specific amount of air. It is usually measured in gram per cubic centimeter or meter. But relative humidity is actually expressed in the form of a ratio or percentage. So that is why relative humidity has got no unit. It is always expressed in percentage. Now what is relative humidity? Relative humidity is nothing but at a given temperature in a specific amount of air, whatever water vapor is actually present and the amount of water vapor that air mass can absorb, the ratio between these two is called the relative humidity. So let me make it very easy for you people. So what I have said, that relative humidity is a ratio between the actual amount of water vapor at a given temperature in a specific amount of air with the maximum amount of water vapor that air mass can absorb in that specific temperature. So the ratio between these two is called relative humidity. Suppose, let us take a very funny example. A person can have 8 chapatis at dinner. So that is the maximum amount of water vapor that the air mass can absorb. But the person ate only 4 chapatis. So that is the actual amount of water vapor which is present in the air mass. So the ratio between these two is relative humidity. So as I have discussed earlier, that though absolute humidity has got a unit which is gram per cubic centimeter or gram per cubic meter, but relative humidity is always expressed in the form of percentage. So it is not having any unit. Now this relative humidity is actually depends upon a couple of factors. The first thing that we can say, that is evaporation. So relative humidity largely depends upon evaporation. Whenever the rate of evaporation increases, the relative humidity also increases, and vice versa. That is, whenever the rate of evaporation decreases, relative humidity also decreases. Now the next factor that we can say, that if the temperature of any place reduces, then in that case the relative humidity increases, and if the temperature rises, then relative humidity decreases. Okay, the relative humidity of saturated air is 100%. Now you might think that what is the meaning of saturated air? Saturated air is that kind of air which is, or rather which has absorbed which has absorbed enough of water vapor and it cannot absorb any more water vapor. So that kind of air mass is known as saturated air. Maybe if the temperature increases, that air can absorb more water vapor. So for saturation, a specific temperature is required. That is, suppose a air mass may be saturated at 30 degrees Celsius. But if the temperature rises and the temperature goes up to 35 degrees Celsius, then obviously the water vapor absorption capacity of that air mass will obviously increase. Okay, so saturation is actually related with temperature. Now the next thing that we have to know, that is the importance of relative humidity. Relative humidity is really important for us because it affects our health. Whenever relative humidity increases, not only it creates or it causes a lot of discomfort for us, it also increases the number of mosquitoes or other disease causing organisms. The next thing that we can say, if relative humidity is more than 80% or 85%, it is likely to rain. Next thing, this relative humidity also determines or also influences the agricultural activity, because if the relative humidity of a place is higher, then there will be rain, and that rain might help the agricultural processes. Now last but not the least, the thing that we have to discuss over here, that is building material of a place for different kind of construction work should be chosen or should be selected keeping in mind the humidity of the place. Okay, now the next thing or the next phenomena, that is condensation. So I hope you all have an idea about condensation. Condensation is just the opposite procedure of evaporation. Evaporation is change of water from liquid to gaseous state, and condensation is change of water from gas to liquid form. It is just the reverse procedure of evaporation. So whenever the temperature of air mass decreases, the amount of water vapor which is present in that air mass transforms into liquid state from gaseous state. This is considered as condensation. Usually it has been noticed that the pollen grains, ash, dust particles, all these things which are actually present in the air in a suspended form, they are helping in the process of condensation. So that is why all these tiny objects or all these tiny droplets, they are considered as condensation nuclei. Sometimes they are also known as hygroscopic nuclei. Now there are different varieties or different categories of condensation. One by one we have to understand all those. The first one is dew. So I suppose all of you have noticed dew, and you all know that when or in which season of the year we can see dew. That is not in the summer season or not in the winter season, not in the monsoon season. Dew actually appears in the autumn season. Okay, just during the time of our Durga Puja. Why? During that time, after the monsoon, after the summer season, the monsoon comes, and after the monsoon, autumn comes. So after the monsoon, when winter is about to approach but winter hasn't settled, so that is why the temperature starts decreasing little bit, and that is why in the early morning the temperature is minimum. Because of this reason, in the early morning, in the lower layer of the atmosphere, whatever amount of water vapor is present, those water vapor get condensed and they are transformed into tiny droplets of water, and we can see them on the tip of the grasses, on brick, on the leaves, everywhere we can see them. So these tiny droplets of water, these are known as dew. So the temperature at which dew has formed, that is known as dew point. Okay. Now another form of condensation is known as frost. Frost is very similar to dew, but unfortunately we, the people who are living in the plain land, we haven't experienced frost, because in the cooler areas during the autumn season only, instead of dew, frost is formed. That is because of very less temperature in the early morning, the water vapor which is present in the atmosphere, instead of turning into water droplets, they are turning into very tiny ice crystals, and it is known as frost. So the people who are living at higher elevated areas, they can experience frost. Now, the next type of condensation is fog. All of us are familiar to fog. It is a very common type of condensation. So, and fog is experienced in the winter season only, in the evening or in the late night obviously, and in the early morning, that is after sunset, fog actually appears. So what happens? The logic remains same, that is after the sun sets, when the temperature drops down by a few degrees Celsius, during that time the water vapor which is present in the lower layer of the atmosphere, the entire water vapor transforms into tiny droplets of water, and as because huge amount of tiny droplets of water are grouped together, so it seems that a white curtain is present in front of our eyes. So that is fog. Okay, so fog disappears in the daytime, because when the sun rises and the temperature of the earth increases, obviously the temperature of the atmosphere also increases, so those tiny droplets of water, again with the increase in temperature, they starts evaporating. So that is why during the daytime there is no fog. Fog appears only after sunset. Okay, so the next thing is mist. Mist is nothing but it is very similar to fog, but when fog is very less dense, we call it mist. Another thing which I have to mention, which is related to fog, that is fog is considered to be dangerous because it reduces our visibility, and that is why it is considered to be dangerous, as because it may cause different kind of accidents. Okay, now the most important or the most common type of condensation, that is cloud. So cloud and fog, both the things are very similar, their formation is also very same, but fog is developed at the lower layer of the atmosphere, and cloud develops at a higher elevation or higher altitude. That is the main difference between cloud and fog. The rest of the things are more or less same, that is the water vapor which are formed, which are present in the atmosphere, when those water vapor they condenses, they are grouped together and they are forming, so at that time they are forming clouds. Okay, so when clouds are saturated, they are causing rainfall, or they are coming back to the surface of the earth in the form of rainfall. Now we can classify clouds as high clouds, medium clouds and low clouds. So my dear students, you have to learn at least 2 names from each category. Okay, now the next thing that we have to know, I suppose up to this much there is no problem. So now the next thing that we have to know, that is precipitation. So what is precipitation? Precipitation is nothing but rainfall. Actually, rainfall is the most common type of precipitation. So what is precipitation? So whenever the clouds are very much saturated, totally filled with tiny droplets of water, and they are unable to float anymore, so they are coming back to the surface of the earth, maybe in the form of rain, or maybe in the form of snow, or maybe in the form of hail. So that is considered to be precipitation. Now in over here also they have mentioned the thing, that is hygroscopic nuclei, that I have discussed a few minutes back. That is hygroscopic nuclei and condensation nuclei, both are same. Okay, that is the pollen grains, the ash, the dust particles, all these, they are actually helping in this condensation, and they are considered to be hygroscopic nuclei or condensation nuclei. Now within precipitation, as I have said, the most common type of precipitation is rainfall, and rainfall has also, we can experience different kind of rainfall. Sometimes the drops of rainwater are so tiny that we can hardly use that, we don't need to use an umbrella. It's very light kind of rain, so we call that it is drizzle. Sometimes then sometimes there is heavy downpour, so that is torrential rainfall, and sometimes the moderate kind of rainfall. Okay, and we will discuss about the different types of rainfall afterwards according to their origin. Now the next category or the next type of precipitation is the snowfall. So places which are located in hills or places which are located at higher altitude, over there the precipitation occurs in the form of snow, because at higher altitude the layer of the atmosphere is so cold that whenever it starts raining and the raindrops, when they are coming through, or rather they are passing through the cold layer of air, the raindrops, they freezes and they are touching the ground or earth surface in the form of snow. Okay, so snowfall is experienced only in cold places, not in plains. Okay, in hilly areas and cold places. Now the next thing that we have to know, that is hail. Hail is something which is experienced only in the summer season and along with the thunderstorm or nor'wester. That is, we can say in the month of April and May, sometimes along with nor'westers, which is also known as Kal Boishakhi. So during that time we can experience hail. Kal Boishakhi or nor'wester can happen without hail, but hail cannot happen without Kal Boishakhi or nor'wester. So what happens during this time? So actually Kal Boishakhi is nothing but a severe storm in the Gangetic, West Bengal and Brahmaputra valley in the late afternoon during the month of April and May. So what happens during this storm? As because there is turbulent air, so when the raindrops, they are coming towards the earth surface, after coming to some extent, maybe because of a very turbulent air, they are again going up. So when they are going up in the upper atmosphere, the temperature is quite less and the raindrops freezes and forms ice crystals. And as because the ice crystals are heavier than the raindrops, so they are unable to float in the atmosphere anymore and they are coming down to the surface of the earth. That is why during the time of a hail, we can experience raindrops and hail both together. Okay, which is a very interesting thing. Now last but not the least, it is sleet. So these are frozen raindrops, and obviously this kind of precipitation is experienced only in cooler areas, not in cold places. In cold places we can experience snowfall, but in cooler areas we can experience sleet. Now here children, you can see the diagram of an instrument which is known as rain gauge, and this instrument is helpful for measuring the amount of rainfall occurred at any place. I will suggest you people to practice this diagram in your home. Now the next thing that we have to know, that is the different kind of rainfall. The first category is the convectional rainfall. This thing, that is the convectional rainfall, is a very common type of rainfall. Usually it is experienced in the countries nearby the equator. So what happens? That is during the daytime, because of the heat energy received by the sun, received by the earth from the sun, the atmosphere gets heated up, the water gets evaporated and it has moved up. In the upper layer of the atmosphere, the water has condensed and the water has formed cloud, and in the late afternoon, when the cloud has become totally saturated, it starts raining. So this very normal, very ordinary kind of rainfall is known as the convectional rainfall. It has got another title also. It is also known as 4 o'clock rain in the equatorial region. Why? It is not that whenever the clock strikes 4, it starts raining in the equatorial region. Actually, every day in the late afternoon, it starts raining in the equatorial region, or all the equatorial countries, they experience rainfall every day all 365 days in the late afternoon. That is why it is known as 4 o'clock rain. So the next thing is the next kind of rainfall is the orographic rainfall. It is very important for our country because in India 80 to 85% of rainfall is orographic rainfall. Now what is orographic rainfall? Let us try to understand that. It is nothing but, see the diagram and it will be easier for you to understand. Whenever a moisture laden wind, suppose there is a big water body, maybe a sea or an ocean, wind is blowing above that water body, and whenever wind is blowing above a water body, the wind can pick up enough of moisture from that water body. So similarly this wind also has picked up enough of moisture from that water body, but suddenly there is a big mountain comes in its path. Now the wind is unable to go to the other side. Now how the wind will proceed? The wind has to climb the mountain. So as the see the arrows, children, the arrow is showing the movement of the wind. So as the wind starts climbing the mountain and it is going to upper layer of the atmosphere, because of the coldness of the upper layer of the atmosphere, the wind also cools down and the water vapor which are present within that wind mass condenses and it forms cloud and it starts raining in that particular side of the mountain from which the wind has started climbing up. So this side of the mountain which is receiving heavy rainfall is known as the windward side. Now after shedding off enough of moisture, now the wind is going to the other side of the mountain and the wind is gradually going down towards the earth's surface. As the wind is descending or the wind is going down towards the earth's surface, so gradually the temperature of the wind increases and whatever amount of water vapor is present in the wind, so or water droplets were present in the wind, they starts evaporating very quickly because the temperature of the wind is increasing. So the opposite side of the same mountain receives very poor or almost no rainfall. So this side of the same mountain which receives almost no rainfall is known as the leeward side or the rain shadow area. And this particular kind of rainfall is known as orographic rainfall. In India, if you see the map of India, physical map of India, you will see that in the southern part there is a mountain, very long mountain range which is known as the Western Ghat chain of mountain range, and all of us know about the Himalayan mountain range. So these two mighty mountain ranges of India, they are mainly responsible for orographic rainfall. So that's why I was saying that in India 80 to 90% of rainfall is of orographic in nature. Okay, and in your textbook you can see that they have given the example of different rain shadow areas from the world and from India as well. So please learn the examples thoroughly. Okay, now last but not the least, the third kind of rainfall which is known as cyclonic or frontal rainfall. This one also I will be discussing with the help of this diagram only. See children, you can see over here in this diagram arrows with different colors. The red arrow is showing warm air and the blue arrow is showing cold air. So suppose in any area the a warm air mass and a cold air mass is meeting each other. Unfortunately, due to the difference in temperature and due to the difference in density, these two different air masses, they will not mix up with each other. Okay, even after meeting each other, they will not mix up with each other. Then what will happen? As because the warm air is lighter enough, the warm air will be pushed upward and the cold air will remain downward. So the boundary which is created in between these two different air masses is considered to be a front. and as the warm air is upward but the upper layer of the atmosphere is cooler enough, so the warm air gets sandwiched between the cooler layer of the upper atmosphere and the cold air which is present beneath, and it starts, as a result it starts raining very quickly or very rapidly with severe thundering and lightning. So this kind of rainfall is known as cyclonic rainfall, and cyclonic rainfall is often accompanied by severe storm or mild, sometime mild storm as well. Okay, so usually in tropical countries this type of rainfall is experienced sometimes once in April, May, and another time in September, October. Okay, so in the last quarter of the chapter they have given a comparative study of the different kind of rainfall. I suppose that if you all go through this, it will be very helpful for you people. So please go through this portion. And today I have finished this chapter. I suppose you all have enjoyed the chapter. It is a very interesting and easy one. So apart from the diagram of rain gauge, please practice the diagram of each kind of rainfall. If you wish to color them, that is up to you, or else you can simply draw with your black pen, that is also okay. Okay, so now I am ending my class over here. Next week I will be uploading another video. Till then, please go through the chapter thoroughly, and children, don't worry, I will be doing the question answers. So please don't worry, for the timing you all just learn the chapters thoroughly. Next week maybe I will start giving question answers. Okay, thank you for the time being.